The unthinkable happened. The Great Tower fell. Warriors and gods died in these battles. Billions and billions of lives were lost. Only a few gods and one warrior survived, and Krung shouts, saying he still has the strength to fight. Hercules says it's impossible to defeat the outer gods. Charlie Bravo arrives alone from his last battle. The only human among the gods, looking very downcast, says there's no way to defeat the outer gods, and he shocks everyone by saying that the other gods who went out with him all died. He's the only one left. At that moment, the god Kronos appears, saying that there is still hope. He says he will burn his essence to get one last chance, and by using the lives of Kronos, Odin, and Mimir, Charlie activates the tower's final hope, and with that, he goes back in time, because now we have one last chance. After returning, Charles looks at himself and realizes that something is different. He feels his whole body is light, very light, and also notices that all his magic attributes are gone. He thought that Kronos' magic would make him go back in time, with all his power. However, Kronos rewound time, and Charles keeps thinking that there's no other way. He's going to have to start all over again. And so, the hero knows that first. He needs to figure out where he is in time and space to know when he's returned to. And at that moment, he gets smacked in the face so hard that he almost gets fat from it. The hero wasn't expecting that, but even so, he doesn't fall, he stays on his feet. And the jerk in front of him says, "So, how was that? Did you like it?" And Charlie, looking at that blonde guy in front of him, keeps wondering, who is this guy again? I don't even remember him. Taking a closer look, Charlie notices that the guy is wearing a university jacket, and only then does he remember that he was also at the university when it all started. And the blonde guy tells him to pay attention, since he's distracted, while there's someone right in front of him, and tries to hit the protagonist again. However, his luck had run out, because the protagonist wasn't going to let himself get hit that easily and dodged with ease. Blondie is left confused about how he dodged so quickly, and Charlie starts talking to him, asking if it was morning or night. Blondie doesn't understand why he's asking that. Charlie clenches his fist and says, "Hey, what day is it today? If you answer quickly, I won't hit you, since your punch didn't even hurt, it was so weak." Blondie asks if he's crazy, if he hit his head, because in the middle of a fight, he's starting to talk nonsense. And so, the blonde guy goes in to throw another punch at him, but he gets hit with a really strong counterattack. And Charlie, our hero, gets into a fighting stance. However, Charlie's thoughts are somewhere else. He realizes that his phone is in his pocket and says, "Of course, it's about to start. Today is the day. I have 9 hours until the tutorial begins." It's December 31st, 2019, 8 o'clock at night, in the Hongdae neighborhood. This was an extremely crowded neighborhood, and Blondie, whose real name is Kim Yuwon, but we'll call him Blondie or Kid, is pretty upset. Because he just got beaten up, there are tons of people around, and he can't find his friends. But suddenly, his friends spot him. "Hey, you idiot, come here, sit with us. Why did you take so long?" And then he remembers why he was late. He went to the university just to beat up his favorite punching bag. But, for the first time, the guy fought back. And Charles was acting really weird, because not only did he hit him back, he also said that now he remembered him and that he was just a bully with nothing better to do. Even though the university was closed, and everyone was on break, he went there just to beat him up. Blondie with the little quiff, still lying on the ground, remembers that Charlie said he deserves to get what's coming to him, but he doesn't have to do anything, since they don't have much time left. And Blondie with the little quiff starts thinking that Charlie has gone crazy, because he began speaking a language he couldn't understand and said a bunch of things, but he didn't get any of it. And Blondie with the little quiff promises to get revenge. He says he's going to beat Charlie so badly that he won't even be able to crawl. And so, Blondie with the little quiff starts telling a bunch of lies. He says that he beat up Charlie a lot and that he's definitely in the hospital now. And one of his friends, who also loves bullying, tells him to take it easy, because Charles might end up committing suicide if it keeps going like this. And Blondie with the little quiff says he doesn't care at all, not even a bit, and says that if that loser kills himself, no one will even miss him, and they keep going through the night, drinking and toasting until everyone is drunk. Suddenly, someone looks at the clock and it's 10 minutes to midnight, and then looks around, and realizes there are a lot of people there too. And in the distance is Topatinho's group, celebrating the long holiday and the fact that 2020 is almost here. And they agree to have a third round. And Blondie with the little quiff tells them to do it now, since he's starting to sober up, and looking at his phone, he realizes it's almost midnight. And suddenly, one of his friends notices someone coming and says, "Hey, look over there, isn't that Charles, the guy you said you beat up until he was all messed up?" And Charles heads into the middle of the crowd with a big suitcase, and one of Blondie with the little quiff's friends says that Charles looks completely fine for someone who just got beaten up, and he asks the others where he's going with such a big suitcase. That's when the mask of lies starts to fall off, because soon enough, everyone is going to find out that Blondie with the little quiff didn't beat up anyone. In fact, he was the one who got beaten up. He gets really pissed off thinking about it, so he decides to do something about it. Taking off his mask, he goes after Charles, because now he's thinking that this time he's really going to beat him up, and he calls his friends to go with him so the four of them can gang up on him. But Charlie doesn't care at all, he just walks right past them and keeps going. Blondie with the little quiff calls out Charlie by name and tells him to wait, and at that moment Charlie looks back to see what he wants. Charlie looks Blondie straight in the face and says, "So, what do you want? What are you doing here, you loser?" And the whole crowd around them can see that a fight is about to break out right there. But Charlie doesn't care at all and starts taking off his wristwatch, telling the 4 guys in front of him that it's almost midnight, so they should make the most of these last 3 minutes, because after that, all hell is going to break loose. And with that, he throws his watch on the ground. Meanwhile, the Blondie with the little quiff comes up to him, looking for a fight, calling him a son of a gun and telling him to stop talking crap, because up until now, he's just been saying a bunch of nonsense. But Charlie doesn't even pay attention and opens his suitcase. When he opened the suitcase, the blonde guy was so shocked it was like his soul left his body, because he never imagined there would be something like that inside the suitcase. The blonde guy's friend said that Charles had gone crazy, because Charles had a backpack and a bunch of knives, a machete, and an axe inside that suitcase. The friends of the Blondie with the little quiff all got scared and told him to apologize to Charlie right away. All of the Blondie with the little quiff's friends apologized on his behalf and admitted they were wrong to beat up Charlie. So, they asked Charles to just let it go. Meanwhile, Charles is holding the axe in his hand. After he stands up with his axe, everyone tells him not to do it, saying it was just a silly prank and that Blondie with the little quiff is really sorry. And Charles is just standing there listening to everything they're saying, but the only thing on his mind is that this place is really crowded and there are a lot of people here. So, he gets ready for what's coming and kicks the suitcase with all the weapons toward that group. He stops, and starts counting the seconds, because he knows it's about to start now. And on the clock, there's 1 second left before it begins, and that second feels like an eternity that just won't pass. But at exactly midnight on January 1st, 2020, everyone starts to feel a really strong pressure in their heads and a piercing ringing in their ears, and the whole city is covered in pink lightning and markings. Charlie, with a little grin on his face, tells the blonde guy that his 3 minutes are up, so get ready for hell. And the blonde guy still doesn't understand why he's talking like that, and then a system message appears, Sector 20,131, total population, 12,014 people. The system announces that the tutorial will begin now, and the first tutorial is about survival. They have to survive a horde of zombies. This first tutorial will last 30 minutes. So, after 30 minutes, all the zombies will disappear, and thousands of zombies suddenly spawned out of nowhere right in the middle of everyone. The people around are horrified and start wondering if those are real zombies. Charles looks around and sees that there really are a lot of zombies in that place. And he knows that there are only so many zombies there because of the tutorial's difficulty setting, which means the higher the population in that area, the higher the difficulty. So, the difficulty there will be huge, since the tutorial's balancing made zombies spawn in proportion to the number of people present. The protagonist, without even looking, opens his status window, since he's done this before. And he also knows that people can't move around freely, because the city has been divided into several sectors and no one can go into someone else's sector. After that, he takes an old knife out of his inventory, and he knows that soon, that whole place will turn into a sea of blood. The system announces that all players can view their attributes by saying, Attribute Windows. Charles keeps thinking that the system is giving everyone something, but it's hard to even call these things weapons. And some poor guy gets a hammer to fight against zombies. That's not going to end well, but Charles is as prepared as Batman, and throws away the useless knife the system gave him. He also knows that the theme of the first tutorial is survival, so back then he was just happy to make it out alive. But now, just surviving isn't enough. So, he takes a vial out of his backpack, and opens it skillfully to use it. After that, he pours the contents of the vial onto a very sharp knife he had brought, and looking at his razor-sharp knife, now coated with what he just poured on it, he figures he's finally ready to start the massacre. So, he rushes at lightning speed toward a zombie, and the zombie doesn't even have time to blink, before the knife slices cleanly, decapitating the zombie in a single blow. Right then, the system notifies him that he was the first to kill a zombie in that area, and rewards him with 100 points. By killing the zombie, he earns a lot of experience points and immediately levels up. And as he levels up, he feels amazing, realizing that his body is getting lighter and lighter, and the protagonist doesn't stop his rampage. He starts slicing through all the zombies in front of him, and his level just keeps going up. He doesn't waste a single swing. All of them are highly deadly. Heads are flying everywhere. People from a distance, watching Charles massacre all the zombies, start to wonder if the zombies are actually weak. So, they gather their courage, because it suddenly seems possible. And just like that, they set out to massacre all the zombies too. The extra, super excited, jumps right into the zombies and swings his axe with all his might at the first zombie in front of him. But all his strength was useless, because the zombie's skin is so thick that it easily tanks the blow from the axe. The extra starts wondering why his axe couldn't get through that zombie, since it seemed like it would be easy. Meanwhile, the protagonist right next to him was smashing all of them with no problem at all. The protagonist heard a loud scream and turned to see what was going on. There was Mr. Zombie. Let me zoom in so you can see. Mr. Zombie was giving that guy a big bite on the neck, and a jet of ketchup was shooting up. I guess he's on a diet now. Watching all that, the protagonist starts to realize that ordinary strength isn't enough to cut through those zombies, since their skin is so thick. Charles explains that zombies are slow and weak, but they're really tough, and in all of this, he hadn't really noticed that before. A single zombie is weak, but a group of them is extremely dangerous. And the protagonist knows that some people will manage to survive and eventually climb the tower, but it's not going to be easy. And at that moment, Charles tries to decapitate more than one zombie, but this time it was ineffective. So, he gets pretty upset and gives the zombie a little affectionate kick, sending it flying off into the distance. Charles realizes that the effect has already worn off, so he opens his backpack again, because he knows zombies aren't easy to kill, but they do have a weak spot. He grabs another vial just like the previous one, tosses it into the air, and slices it in half with his knife, imbuing it once again with that material. And he remembers the first time he did the tutorial, when he met someone who had no talent at all, someone who was weak. However, that person was very lucky, because the zombies were weak against the things he used to do before entering the tower. This man says that he used to work in a salt factory, so he had salt with him, and to his surprise, the zombies were weak against salt. So all you have to do is season the knife with salt or throw salt on the zombies and they'll die instantly. But, hey, do you think these zombies have high blood pressure? Write in the comments if you think the zombies have high blood pressure and that's why they're weak against salt. After that, Charles achieves an impossible feat. He defeated 100 zombies in less than 10 minutes during the tutorial, and so the protagonist gets 3 undistributed attribute points, meaning 3 extra attribute points for him to allocate wherever he wants. And the system gives us a little help by explaining the same thing. The protagonist stands in the middle of that carnage, very surprised, because he didn't know it was possible to get undistributed points already in the tutorial, and he's unsure whether to use those points or not. But he knows what's coming next, so he decides to save them, since he doesn't need those points just to kill zombies. There are only 10 minutes left until the first stage of the tutorial ends. So the protagonist needs to find a decent area where most of the zombies are. He looks to the other side and hears several zombie growls. Hundreds of zombies are gathered in one spot, so he heads over there. And in that spot, Tupatinaram is bravely fighting against a single zombie. And the zombie, who doesn't feel any pain at all, even with the blade buried in its face, keeps going after Tupatinaram. He starts questioning himself because he's having a really hard time killing those zombies. But when he saw Charles was killing those zombies so easily with a single blow, and here he is struggling just to kill one. Tupatinaram thinks that Charles's secret is in his weapon and says that if he had Charles's weapon, he definitely would have killed dozens of zombies. The zombie that was fighting Tupatinaram starts to deform and lets out an even higher pitched scream. And Tupatinaram gives the zombie a hard kick, sending it flying far away. Lauren's friends join him and realize that something is wrong, more wrong than usual, because they are surrounded by zombies. All of them seem to have the same haircut, and Quika's hair notices that even though they're killing the zombies, their numbers just keep increasing. Tupatinaram asks his friends if they know where Charlie went, and he knows they can survive if they stay close to Charles, since he's killing all the zombies with ease. Tupatinaram, looking back, sees that the zombie horde is closing in tighter and tighter, and he keeps thinking about where Charles is. He was so lost in thought that he got distracted, and the zombies were already right on top of him. He barely had time to react and managed to hit the zombie at the very last second. However, the zombie has reinforced skin, and finally, the weapon Tupatinaram was using completely breaks apart. Now he knows things are about to go bad. He starts thinking this is the end for him. As all the zombies close in on him, he shields himself, not wanting to die. But then, something happens to the zombie. The zombie starts to melt. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and sees that all the zombies around him are melting too. And one of his friends says that something is falling from the sky onto them, and that's why they're melting. They look up and realize there's a very fine, white dust falling on all the zombies. Tupatinaram reaches out his hand and gathers some of that white substance in his palm. He does what anyone would do, puts it in his mouth to taste it, and realizes it's salty. And he starts wondering if it's salt, because it sure seems like salt. And we see the protagonist, up on top of the buildings, jumping from one to another, throwing salt on all the zombies below. And now, the protagonist's level starts to rise frenetically, because all the zombies below are dying instantly, being melted by the salt. And he thinks it was totally worth bringing all that salt, since his level is going up so fast. After pouring out the last bit of salt, he lands abruptly on another building. And at that exact moment, the first tutorial ends, and the number of survivors is 4,007. Before, there were 12,014 people in that place. Now, only 4,007 remain. A lot of people died, and the system starts distributing points according to the number of enemies killed, and the protagonist receives an incredible 1,427 points, and on top of that, he gets additional attribute points, 1 in strength, 2 in vitality, and 1 more unassigned point. And because he was the MVP of that area, he gets another 500 points, and the rewards don't stop there. The system announces that he accomplished something impossible and gives him another 1,000 points. And the protagonist is stunned, because so many status panels popped up in front of him and he never imagined it was possible to earn that many points. He keeps thinking about how he got over 3,000 points this time, and he remembers that the first time he did the tutorial, in the very first stage, he only managed to get 10 points. So now, he's earned more than 300 times what he got the first time. Charlie is really happy because for the first tutorial, 3,000 points is a lot. The system doesn't care about anyone and immediately announces that the second tutorial will begin shortly, not giving anyone a chance to rest. The protagonist tries to remember what the next tutorial will be, when suddenly, a voice speaks in everyone's head. "Hello everyone, how's it going?" And the protagonist is really surprised to hear that voice in his head. All the players are also surprised, because someone is speaking inside their heads and the person is congratulating them for surviving. However, he is very surprised, because in that area, a lot of people survived and he feels really embarrassed, since it seems like he did a terrible job, and the players start asking who is talking to them and some ask each other if they're hearing it too. The voice says that it has an announcement for all of them and explains that it was supposed to make this announcement only after the second tutorial. Charlie realizes that it's a minion who's speaking, and the minion says that someone among them leveled up very quickly and earned a lot of points, so he has to make the announcement now. He's going to teach people how they can use their points. The bystanders start to panic because they were already wanting to go home. However, the minion informs them that there will be other tutorials. After that, the voice says that there are two main ways to spend points. The first is at the store with the most varied items possible, and the other way is by exchanging points between players. And he explains that for players to exchange points with each other, they just need to shake hands. That way, the points are transferred from one person to another, and Charlie keeps thinking about it and knows this very well because you can become a god just with points. He also knows that the store plays a very important role in that world he's in, because from now on, it will be a battle for points and levels, so everything will get much harder. After that, the cheeky minion asks if people enjoyed the break he gave them. So, let's continue with the second tutorial. A yellow circle appears. In the middle of that area, the system informs us that a safe zone is being created in the center of each sector. After that, the system asks people to enter the safe zone and also announces that every 3 hours, each surviving person will receive 100 points. The system changes color and announces that the second tutorial will begin now. And the safe zone looked really beautiful, with 2 circles, one inside the other, and many people who were outside the safe zone walked over there, since it was easy to spot their enemies. It was shining brightly. Kabika Dakwika puts his hand on his friend's shoulder and says, "Hey man, let's go. Yeah, let's head to the safe zone." And Topatinhol Waro goes into a total panic. He keeps asking himself, what the hell is this? What's going on? Kabika Dakwika misses his friend Gansho. He asks Topatinho if he saw him, and Topatinho says, "I don't know, man, I think he died." So now the Fantastic Four is the marvelous trio. Topatinhol Waro looks around and Kabika Dakwika asks, "What are you looking at?" He says, "Nothing, man, just taking a look." And the third friend says he can't see Charlie. Did he die? Kabika Dakwika says that Charles was fighting with a caged beast. It seems like that was his calling. But Topatinhol Warinho, who was looking around, just found Charlie. He runs toward him. He tells everyone to get out of the way and runs over to Charlie. Kabika Dakwika, seeing that, says, "Hey man, where are you going?" "The safe zone is this way." Topatinhol Waro doesn't care. He wants to talk to his former punching bag. When he catches up, he grabs Charlie's shoulder and says, "Hey man, you're going the wrong way. Go back over there. The safe zone is that way. Did you forget?" He invites Charlie to go to the safe zone together, since he's his senior, and will definitely protect him. He knows if he stays close to Charlie, he'll have a better chance of surviving. Looking at Topatinho, Charlie says, "Hey, I know what I'm doing, okay? I have somewhere else to go. Leave me alone. I wasn't born stuck to you, and I don't even like you." At that moment, he brushes Topatinho Waro's hand off his shoulder. Charlie gives Topatinho some advice and says, "Hey, if you want to survive, don't depend on other people for that. Rely on your own strength. Now, be a good boy and run back to the safe zone as fast as you can." Only now does Charlie look at him and say, "You better know your place, you useless idiot." Topatinhol Waro is so shocked he almost faints. "What? You son of a..." Meanwhile, Charles walks away quickly to wherever he needs to go. Topatinhol Waro is left fuming with anger, cursing Charlie in his head. After that, Topatinhol Waro obediently enters the safe zone. However, their third friend isn't so lucky and runs straight into the force field of the safe zone, shouting from a distance, "Hey, it's blocked. Hey, Topatinhol Waro, it's blocked. I can't get in." Topatinhol Waro looks back and sees that the safe zone now displays its capacity at the top, and he notices it's at full capacity, 2038 out of 2038. No one else can enter, only if someone leaves. And he notices that the safe zone's capacity is half the number of survivors. But the author isn't very good at division, because the number of survivors was 4007, and 4007 divided by 2 isn't 2038. At that moment, a dwarf who was trying to enter the safe zone is dragged underground by some creature that came out of it. And Topatinho just stares at that and says, "What is that over there?" A bunch of giant worms came out of the ground and started eating everyone. It was a worm festival. Somewhere else, a little farther away, there was a sword being driven forcefully into a giant worm. We see that it's Charlie. He's slicing up his first worm. He starts listening around and all he hears are cries for help and people screaming, asking what those things are. Charlie realizes it's already started. The second wave has already begun, and the system congratulates him because he was the first person in that sector to kill a worm. So, he earns 300 points and 2 more points distributed randomly. And little by little, he starts to activate the hack, since his strength and dexterity are increased by 1 more point. And Charlie, at this narrator's request, starts to teach how you can detect the worms. He says that first you need to close your eyes and then focus all your other senses to feel the worm. That sounded a bit ambiguous, didn't it? He shows that if you do this, you can sense the vibrations in the ground and the sounds it makes, making it easy to locate them. Charlie focuses and starts to feel a slight vibration in the ground. He knows something is coming from below. When that vibration gets stronger, he knows the worm is arriving, so he makes a big leap into the air and then comes down with all his strength on the worm's head, crushing it completely. Then comes the usual. He draws his sword, slices one way, slices the other, and the worm is split in 2. And just like that, we have the second worm successfully killed. And once again, the system notifies Charlie that he has leveled up, so he gains strength, dexterity, and percep. He's pretty thrilled, because he leveled up by killing just 2 of them, so the farming is going to be great. The worms stopped appearing, so Charlie keeps going deeper into the subway, thinking that if things keep going like this, he's going to rack up a lot of attribute points. Suddenly, he reaches the first level of the subway. He knows that the worms live underground, and down there they create lots of tunnels and build their nest somewhere. So, he's going to look for that nest. Charles explains that since the subway is underground, it's the perfect place to hunt worms. Looking ahead, dozens of male worms wait their turn. Then, the system notifies the protagonist of a secret dungeon. If that's the case, let's give the protagonist another 100 points for free. Charlie didn't have to walk far to find the worm nest. What an ugly place. It's all male worms, not a single female. Charlie gets really excited, starts spinning his weapon, and says, now that I found their nest, hunting them is going to be a piece of cake. Let's wipe out this nest. Striking a super stylish pose, he sets a goal, reach level 20. That's his first goal. The male worm starts screaming, but it's a scream of pain, because the protagonist didn't just stand there. He charged in and slashed them all with his machete. It's a festival of green juice. Wherever he goes, green juice is spraying everywhere. Charlie slices through all the worms in the troop with great skill. When suddenly, a spherical object comes out from inside the worm, it really catches the protagonist's attention. And seeing that, he realizes it looks familiar. He starts thinking he's really lucky, because he didn't know it was possible to get that sphere in the second tutorial. So now he has an even bigger reason to go all out. Picking it up and checking it, he realizes it's even more interesting than he thought. So, the worms became even more appealing. Time to kill and gut them. Charles, holding that sphere in his hand, looks at all the worms and says, hey, sorry, but now I'm really motivated to gut you all. Meanwhile, up above, the male worms are eating everything. The people in the safe zone are watching that and finding it really whore. And so, the first 3 hours went by and everyone earned 100 points. And pop-up windows started appearing everywhere. And people start wondering if 100 points is a lot, since they know that these points are the currency in this tutorial. But the system is sneaky, and it says, hey, you guys in the red zone, it's going to be deactivated, okay? And so, the safe zone, which is divided by colors, starts to shrink, going from 2,038 people to 1,500. And the system explains that if the maximum capacity is exceeded, people will be randomly expelled from the safe zone. Several people start getting spit out of the safe zone. And people were being thrown out any which way. And so the worms had their feast. What's written here is, he came out of the butt. So, the worm took advantage, and ate him. Everyone who was spit out tries to get back into the safe zone. A bully who was thrown out shoves an extra far away from him, and says, hey, get out of my way, every man for himself, I want to get back inside the safe zone. And everyone desperately tries to get back into the safe zone. Blondie with a little quiff, who's bravely inside the safe zone, tells everyone to be quiet and shut up. And for some reason, everyone goes silent and looks at Blondie with the little quiff. And he says that from now on, they'll have to decide who they need to kill in order to survive. Blondie starts thinking that if he doesn't do anything, he might end up being thrown out at random. He says that someone has to be killed in order to survive. Then, he looks at the defenseless old man and says, it's him, this is the old man I'm going to kill. And grabbing the old man by the collar, he says he wants to finish him off right now. And the other people get scared of Blondie, asking if he's gone crazy. He, the big coward he is, thinks it's easy to kill the old man since he's weak. The axe swings like crazy. The protag, just kidding, I got you. The protagonist kills another male worm, cutting a huge mouth that goes to the worm's belly button. Charles realizes that he's getting more and more agile, and with every worm he kills, he becomes much stronger than before. So, slicing and killing 2 worms at the same time has become child's play for him. A little while later, the system notifies him that he's leveled up again. There it is, several dead worms on the ground and a few of those round stones he's been looking for. The system notifies him that he's increased his dexterity, vitality, and perception. 1 more point in each of them. And finally, Charles Mortal reaches level 20. He unlocks a new attribute, Arcane Power. He thinks he's finally made it, because in about 3 hours, he managed to kill so many worms that he's exhausted, but he reached level 20. And so, with every level he gains, he feels his body getting even lighter. Charles now has 5 unassigned attribute points, and he actually thinks that's not bad at all. He has to wait so long to assign those unallocated points, because he's going to put them all into arcane power. After choosing and distributing the points, the unassigned points go straight into arcane power, and the protagonist feels an exponential increase in power throughout his body, since he knows that 5 more points in arcane power is a huge deal. And he says that this arcane power is the main attribute and the foundation of all the powers he will gain in the future. So, this is the most important attribute he has. And now, the protagonist has 18 points in arcane power. Charles explains that everyone he met who claimed to be blessed by the tower started with at most 12 points in arcane power, and he's starting with 18 points. After accomplishing his first objective, Charles moves on to his next goal, and while walking down the subway corridor, he senses a strange presence. Looking around, he realizes that something is watching him, and says, "Hey, why are you spying on me? I know you're there." And the being that was watching him remained still, hesitant. A few seconds later, the being that was watching him says, "How did you know I was here?" Charles says he knows he's kind of flashy. Then, he tells the being that's watching him from inside the hole to come out, saying it must be really boring to keep watching him from far away, inside that hole. And the being says that's true, so I'll come out. The being comes out of the hole and says, "Anyway, thanks. It was really boring having to watch you from that hole. You made my job, which is really boring, a little more fun. I loved watching you kill those creatures." The being, who is a small clown covered in blood, introduces himself as a minion of the administrator. And the minion is very surprised, because he's already reached level 20. That's surprising. Charles Mortal says, "Man, I just got a little lucky." And the pygmy clown is shocked and says, "Lucky? That was not luck at all. I saw what you did. You're scary." After that, the pygmy clown asks why the player called him here. And Charles says, "I want the shop. I want to see the shop." And the minion asks if he wants to buy any items, and Charles says no. He says he wants to buy some skills, and the pygmy clown is really intrigued by that player. Without further delay, the minion opens the shop for him and says he's the first person to buy skills in the second tutorial. Charles starts looking through the shop and sees that there are so many things that it's going to take him a long time to find what he's looking for, since this shop doesn't have a search window. However, after some time, he finds what he was looking for. But Charles is someone who likes to bargain, and looking at the pygmy, he says, "Hey, are these all the skills you have? Isn't there anything better than this?" And the pygmy says that's all he can buy during the tutorial. Then the pygmy starts using some dialogue tricks and asks if he's looking for something specific. But Charles, being clever, doesn't fall for it and says, "No, not really, I'm just browsing." Charles knows that if he asked any kind of question, it would only draw attention to himself. He looks at the monkey eyes and says, "Hey, I'm gonna buy this, okay? I want this one." The pygmy is surprised and says, "Oh, monkey eyes? That's not even a good skill. Are you really going to buy that?" Charles doesn't even want to talk. He just hits the buy button and gets the monkey eyes. He says he bought those eyes just because he thought the name was really cool, and the clown totally fell for Charles's nonsense. And the protagonist still has a lot of points left, since he has more than 1,500 points remaining. He buys a basic arcane sword for another 1,500 points, leaving the poor protagonist with only 27 points left. The pygmy, seeing that he chose the arcane sword, says that he made an excellent choice, since that sword is really good for beginners. Charles heads toward the back of the dungeon. Meanwhile, the clown says, "Alright, I'm out, okay? I hope you make the most of your time. I'm leaving, no need to miss me. I have high hopes for you. See you next time, bye." And Charles realizes that when the pygmy said he has high expectations, it's a sign that he's going to keep a close watch on him. So he knows he's become a special administrative target. But Charles isn't afraid, because he knows he hasn't broken any rules. So, they can watch him all they want, since they can't punish him. He hasn't done anything wrong. The only thing that bothers Charles is having gone back in time. He keeps wondering if the administrators would be able to find out. Charles explains that the clock mechanism for going back in time was an item created by the god Kronos, Mimir, and Odin, and that Kronos, the main person behind this item, had his existence erased as a penalty. So, Charles knows that not even the administrator should be able to find out about his return. The system gives us the data about the monkey eyes. It has the effect of enhancing vision and strengthening all 5 senses. And its rank is F, but it can be upgraded. Charles thinks to himself, even if they find out that he's the one who returned, his goal won't change. He will grow stronger to destroy the outer gods. By receiving these eyes, Charles finally achieves one of his goals, which is to get the eyes of that guy. But he knows that for these eyes to be useful, he'll have to level them up quickly, so he's going to get something big in that place. Not to mention that place, what a big deal. Not far from there, several worms had gathered at the edges, drinking and chatting with food stuck in their teeth. And the worms